Hello, hello. How many people are here, if any? Oh, it looks like 0. That's how you know I'm popular. Is it 0 or is it 6? I have no idea, but it's okay. Hey, good. Okay, it's more than 1. Oh, it's more than 0. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. No. Hey, actually, no. This is actually a lively group. Okay. All right. What's up? All right. What up, Billy? How are you doing? How was your weekend? Yeah, so today I kind of wanted to, well, we had work on Monday, so I had to work today. And then I chilled out for a little bit and I had a one-on-one with a client. And after I finished that, I just wanted to take a long break. Then I also started thinking about, man, as I was working with this individual, coding is actually really hard. And I realized this, especially because sometimes it's so hard to just think about how difficult coding is because you only remember it at that moment, how hard it was. And even to this day, it is still hard for me, especially like when you're trying to learn a lot of new concepts and whatever. But even just getting like these basic fundamentals down, and I say basic because it's like basic as in core fundamentals, is actually very, very hard. And it's so hard that I think I commend a lot of people that are trying to learn how to code. And I just want to say that, like rushing into trying to become a software developer, it's a good goal to have, and trying to do it within under a year or 3 months or 6 months. It sounds nice, but man, it is not easy. It is not easy learning how to code. And I don't know. It's something that I kind of am putting myself in aspiring developer, or I actually hate saying the word aspiring these days because everyone is a software developer that has put their hands on the keyboard and started typing. You guys are software developers. You just haven't gotten that professional experience yet, but you are real software developers. But no, it was a good reminder today to just, man, this is a long journey. And for those of you that are learning or like in coding boot camps or self-taught developers, you guys and gals are awesome, because this, especially in this 2021 where there's a lot of competition or just everything's remote, so not everything is on your side. Kudos to everyone that's out there that's trying it out. So kind of wanted to make this stream and just give thanks to, or give praise to everyone that's just learning and just struggling and going through it. And if there's any way that I can help with y'all's journey, please let me know. Actually, I just made a video today about transitioning from Ruby to JavaScript, and of course those type of videos don't do well. But if you are kind of very serious about wanting to learn how to code and becoming a software developer, I highly recommend you to watch it, because it is dry, but it's so helpful to really hammer down these concepts, because it can only help you down the line in the future. So yeah, I just wanted to just get this live stream open. I'm not gonna do a 4-hour live stream like before, because I do have to work tomorrow. But if you have any questions or if you have any comments, like, please let me know. But yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that coding is hard. Even after 5 years, coding is very hard for me. And although, me explaining concepts and whatever may seem obvious to me when I explain it to other people, it took me a while to get there too, right? Like, I have been doing this for about 6 years now. And of course, if I don't know how to explain these things, then there's probably something wrong with me, not you. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, Dana, Dana, you're here. Thanks for stopping by. You honestly are a big inspiration for me to just keep continuing what I'm doing, because I love seeing people that put in the effort, people that I know that are progressively getting better and better every week. you're killing it. So I'm self-teaching now, currently doing QA for a software company, but hoping to move into an engineer role. That is actually such a good spot to be in, and especially if you're doing QA for a company, there's so many ways to go about this. And because even at my last company, the QA engineers were still considered software engineers. And if you are using something like Cypress to write the integration testing and all of that stuff, I would even argue that you are a software developer. Now let's see if you just work on some features, maybe dive into JavaScript a little bit more, and yeah, let's see what happens. Hopefully you could do some more integration testing and it's not just manual testing. But either way, it's really cool because you have your foot in the door at a company, and now you can just kind of self-teach on your own. Maybe if you've already built a good enough relationship with your bosses, you can transition into a developer role too. So you are in a really good position, Maddox, FL. Maybe is that Florida? But good to see you're already in the space. That's a great way to get plugged in. Hey man, quick question. What's the difference between a front-end developer and a front-end software engineer? Are they the same thing? Thanks. To be frankly honest, I just associate the same. Developer, engineer, software, or ninja, or whatever you want to call it. I think more or less everybody is just doing the same thing. People are going to be really nitpicky, or people are going to write on Twitter that developers aren't engineers or engineers aren't something, but just drown out the noise. Focus on what is more important, is just getting that job as a front end something, full stack something, back end something. That's the most important part. So I personally don't make a distinction between one or the other, but if others do, I would just ignore it. I interchange it all the time, to be honest. I think I put front end developer right on my title, but I guess I could put front end engineer. I don't really know. So if I don't know and I don't care, and I've been in this industry for like 6 years, then I don't think it really matters. Oh, are you ready for the NBA season? Analogies made with basketball and coding always were relatable. Hoping you make more content like that. That was a really fun one to work on, and it was something that I just wanted to change it up a little bit. I actually made that a long time ago, and then I remastered it a little bit with the new microphone and everything. But yeah, I was just trying to figure out ways where I could kind of relate coding to sports or coding to something that is more relatable. And I'm glad that that video was really good for you, because to me, like, coding and a lot of different things that require a time commitment is so similar, and you can't just expect yourself to go into the MBA, or you can't expect yourself to just be a starter right away, right? You have to kind of get the fundamentals down, you have to get the basics down, and then once you get those down, then you take what you practiced in you take what you practice and then you apply it to real life projects. And I guess the equivalent of that is you apply it to real life games and whatever. So I'm really glad that you were able to like connect the dots, because that was kind of my intention. And yeah, it's interesting. I want to make more videos like that, but it takes so much time to make content like that, to be honest. And I'm trying to see if there's other ways where I could kind of make it more I could make content that's still valuable, but at the same time, it kind of saves my mental health as well. But NBA season should be good. You know, I'm a big Lakers fan. They look like a pretty old team, to be honest, but we'll see where it goes, right? Best projects for self-taught developer to work on strictly using Google and MD and documentation. Let's say they aim towards beginner-friendly projects. That's an interesting question. I don't know why you would limit yourself to only using Google and MDM. Is this more of like a pride thing where it's like I only want to look at documentation to do my work kind of thing? But I mean, even taking a bunch of little tutorials here and there, rather than just copying the code, you also could get inspired for different types of ideas and projects that you want to work on. So I wouldn't necessarily restrict myself to that. But if you were to ask me just that only, I mean, it will still kind of more or less be the same answer, like whatever solves a business need. I know some people build invoice applications or product review application, or I know Coder Foundry is big on the like bug tracker stuff. So yeah, up to you to decide, and it just make it something more interesting to whatever you want to solve. For me, I actually built, I mean, you can see it on my banner on the top left or top right, I don't even know where it is, but I built a sports odds application app, and I now sell it as a course. But it was actually something that I was interested in because I do enjoy sports betting and whatever, and I hated just going on these third-party websites to figure out where all the best odds were. So I just used the free API and figured it out myself. And then as I was building, I was like, oh, this would be really cool to kind of show people how I code and how I use React and whatever. It's not necessarily one of those courses where it's like, oh, use state does this or use effect does this, but it's more me leveraging the tools that exist and then building off of it based on my kind of familiarity with React, Bootstrap, and Rapid API and Netlify. But funny enough, actually, I don't even use React Bootstrap in my everyday time at work. But when you're a software developer, it's kind of that expectation that you can just like read documentation and then just more or less copy and paste depending on what you need. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question. Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, it's always weird with these live streams because I don't really know what to say, because generally when I start, there's no one watching. But lately my live streams have had people come in the beginning, so thought I'd kind of give my 2 cents about the struggles of a software developer. And I just remember my own experiences when I started. And you know what's crazy is that I actually, when I graduated from my bootcamp, there was no real like distinction between the back end and the front end. I mean, there was, right? I was building an application using Ruby on Rails, but we didn't really separate anything by back end and front end. It was just models, views, controllers. And we didn't really focus on building back-end APIs. It was just connect your back-end models to your controllers, and then in your controllers, connect them to your views. So like, and it was all within Rails. So there was no separation. So when I graduated, people were like, oh yeah, like APIs, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what's an API? That was like me like studying intensely for 3 months. And I was like, what's an API? All I know is MVC. So it was just so funny just to think about how much I didn't know. So don't feel too bad if you feel like there's just like overwhelming amounts of information in web development. That's just part of learning. So definitely, if you feel like down or if you feel very hard on yourself, just understand that everyone kind of goes through that struggle. And once things start clicking, it definitely gets a lot easier. So. What up, Oscar? Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to the live show. If you're starting out as a contractor on a new job with the potential to become a full-time, if an employer is thinking about what is this? Would the deciding factor be based on more about the quality of code you write, or? It depends on your manager. I'm sure even if you're a contractor, you may be having some discussions more or less, but obviously the soft skills and the technical skills are both going to be important, right? Because ultimately the person that dictates whether or not you're going to be a full-time has to decide, hey, do I want to work with this person? If you write really good code, but you're a pain in the butt to work with, or you're not responsive, or every time someone asks you a question, you just say, just look at my code or look at my documentation. The fact that you're not even willing to, quote unquote, be a team player can really could be a deciding factor of why you don't get a job, right? So you kind of need a little bit of both. I mean, obviously, if you don't have the technical skills, the nicest person can still get no full-time offer, right? So if you had to make me decide on one, I think the technical skills is probably the most important. But if you're just a pain to work with, then I probably wouldn't want to hire you either. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question, JS. Will Johnson in the house. got my friend here. What a good dude. You know, every time I watch that stream or not stream, or that interview with me, Chris, and Will, and I rewatch it, I'm like, dang, I have no excuses. If I feel a little tired, I got no excuses because I don't got kids, I don't got anything. I just got myself. So definitely not like hustle culture necessarily, but just really optimizing the time efficiently is really important here. So this is actually what I enjoy doing in some regards, just doing some live streams and relaxing, because it was either this or editing my videos, and I did not want to edit any more videos. I hate editing videos, to be honest. It's not my forte, and if I could, I would hire a video editor, but the YouTube money is not quite there yet, and I don't know if it ever will, but we'll see. But yo, Will, it's good to have you on. I'm a Clippers fan. Oh no. Gotta ban this guy. Just kidding. But something I've been working on, a personal project, is a fan dashboard encyclopedia with features like rosters and TWDMs for a demo. Yeah. Okay, I'll check it. Yeah, let me know. I'll take a look. Sorry, I've been so busy lately that I rarely look at direct messages, and that's so bad to say, but yeah, my focus has been really all over the place, and unless you're on like my Discord channel, I actually don't even respond to direct DMs too much, even in Discord. So I like to kind of move everybody towards my Discord, or if you want to really like have a longer conversation, I'd also do like paid one-on-ones or whatever. But the paid one-on-ones are not really necessarily because I need the money, and I've said this in multiple streams, but it's just a way to filter out people that, I don't know, just always want free advice and don't actually follow through with the advice that I give, and then I end up just wasting my own time like helping them. So but yeah, I'll definitely take a look, send it over, and yeah. Did you go to school for? No, I did mechanical engineering, but I actually hated coding. I think I took like 2 coding classes then, and it was the worst. But funny enough, now that I've learned how to code, I'm actually learning Java right now, and it's pretty straightforward. But it's so crazy to think about back then when I was looking at code. I was like, what am I doing? What is this public class main void? Or why do I need to put an int in front of a variable? All of these things are now just make sense to me. It's like, oh, I guess in Java you have to define your types, but in JavaScript you technically don't. So yeah, it's been pretty cool to be able to kind of connect all the dots that were so confusing back in the day to now. So yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I agree. Backend and frontend is solution. Well, it's not the same, right? But you know what I mean. Yeah, like you can't really just like show a database and just be like, here, Facebook, here, have your stuff. But yeah. Oh, so I'm learning Java for more Android programming. So I know right now it's like Kotlin's getting pretty popular, but we have a few legacy apps at work that use Java, so that's why I'm learning it. But yeah, not necessarily web development focus, and I'm not gonna complain because I'm a big fan of getting paid to learn, so why not? Thoughts on Shopify development? Hey, Brian, by the way. Many websites, agencies, and entry-level jobs use some platform. Do you think Shopify will be as influential as WordPress? You think Shopify will be big? I think Shopify is already big, right? And it's kind of been taking over. I've kind of just been watching on the sidelines too. And even then, I'm even getting kind of curious about it, even though I don't have to be, because I don't really have anything that requires me to learn Shopify. But if I wasn't doing YouTube, I probably would get into Shopify development and see what I could do. I'm a huge fan of just making that money or making that side hustle if you can. And I think as a freelancer or whatever, I know WordPress is pretty good as well. So it just really depends on what your interests lie. Because I think with Shopify, you can go into more of the freelancing route, but you could also do like theme development. And that way you could kind of make a little bit more passive income. And even with this course thing, I think what's cool is like I didn't really sell too many courses, but it's fine. I don't really care. But the fact that I built it once, invested all this upfront time, and now hopefully, the course will just sell itself, and I don't have to do any more after that. And likewise with themes, I think once you build a theme, there might be a little few modifications here and there you have to make, but you don't really have to do too much. But with freelancing, it's so client-based that you're just going to constantly be churning out client after client after client after client. And that could be a little bit very taxing on the health. So I think what's really important here is to just figure out like what you want to do with WordPress or what you want to do with Shopify. What's the New York market like for devs, and what's your favorite neighborhood in NYC? The New York market is actually pretty good. I'm a huge fan of NYC because I know SF is known for the whole tech industry, Silicon Valley, and all of that stuff. But what I love about New York City as a developer is that it's not only developers that live in the city. There's so many variety of people, so many different places that people came from, so many different jobs. And as much as I love talking about coding and tech, sometimes I just want to talk about something else. So I'm always curious about what other people do. Some people are in like nursing, some people are in finance, some people are just doing so many different things like architecture. And just being able to just educate myself in different industries is super nice. And I feel like if I lived in SF, and even if I like work at Amazon, like I don't think I'm the smartest person. And if anything, if I was in SF, that would probably be validated, where I would feel that I'm not good enough, and then I would have to learn more coding and just like put myself in this mental pressure to always be better and better and better. But here it's a good balance, and I'm okay with not knowing things. I'm okay with not always having to study. I did that a lot in my first 2 years of coding because I just wanted to get better as a software developer. But I would say these past 4 years, I definitely learned in my own pace, but it's to the pace where I don't necessarily sacrifice my health for it. Tips. Oh, sorry. My favorite neighborhood in New York City is probably K-Town, Koreatown, 32nd and between 5th and 6th. That's generally like my midtown area, and it's just close to a lot of friends are at, because New York is so small, but it's so big at the same time that it's good to just meet somewhere in the middle. Tips on moving to NYC. Think I'm moving to Brooklyn. Are most dev jobs? Yeah, most jobs are in New York City, but I think areas in Dumbo and kind of like Williamsburg area is on the up and up. And right now, a lot of jobs are pretty remote, so you're kind of safe from that perspective. So yeah. Tips on moving to New York City. I actually moved to New York City without a job. I went to a coding boot camp here, and then I just ended up staying. So I can't really give you too many tips. Don't move in the winter like I did, and not come unprepared. So what happened was I think I didn't have any snowshoes or anything like that. And basically, I just stepped in this big puddle during the winter. It was so cold. Didn't have any of the right clothing. And then I just looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, did I make the right decision of wanting to learn how to code? But obviously, it was a good decision. But yeah, try to come at a good time if you can. Weather permits. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Hey, brother. How you doing? I really appreciate that. Yeah, I've been trying to mix in between Twitter Spaces and doing this. I wish there was a way I could combine Twitter Spaces and this together, but some days I like doing YouTube, and some days where I don't want to show my face and just lay down, Twitter Spaces can be good. But I think Twitter Spaces are really fun because it really opens up to a different community, and which I don't have that reach to. And then with YouTube, I could keep it kind of chill, keep it myself talking, and yeah, I really like Twitter Spaces too because it gives opportunity for people to talk and share their stuff, and that's kind of what I love hearing. I really think, funny enough, for having a YouTube channel, I actually really enjoy listening to people. So even when I get on Twitter Spaces, I try not to even raise my hand because I just enjoy listening and hearing everybody's story or hearing people's advice. It's super educative. It's super informative, and I just learn a lot, and I just love absorbing knowledge that way. What up? What up? What up? Where do you see yourselves in 5 years? Will you be into AI, robotics, creating a startup? I guess better question is, where do you want to be in life in the next 5 years? Next 5 years. It's a good question. If I stay at Amazon, I want to be either. I'm thinking about potentially wanting to be like a SDM, like a software developer manager. I think I would be kind of decent at it because I would have the technical skills, and I think I have the soft skills to help people grow within a company. So that could be an opportunity. If TechRally blows up and I'm able to kind of do some kind of service where I could help people go from learning how to code to actually finding a job and somehow make actual money off of it and survive from it, that could be something I could consider as well. So hopefully we'll see where this channel goes and where all these opportunities are. But yeah, it really depends. I actually do really love coding and not everyone does love coding, but as funny as it sounds, I think of all the jobs that I've done in my life, coding has definitely been one of the ones where it challenges me often, and I love solving these like really difficult challenges or solving these Rubik's cubes or it just feels like you're just solving these never-ending Rubik's cube, and I don't think any other job can really satisfy my curiosity in that way. I know some people that have been in the industry for now like 3 to 5, 6 years, and kind of similar to where I am in life. They are kind of seeing this weird, like, okay, is this it? I wanted software development to be this thing where I'm going to be financially safe and financially comfortable because my previous life, it kind of sucked. And when they hit that point where they are now more financially stable, they realize maybe software development is really, really boring, or they don't find a lot of satisfaction in it. And from that point of view, I get it. Like sometimes it does get monotonous, or like, why am I building this other feature? Like, why am I just building, right? But weirdly enough, I do actually enjoy like figuring out these complex problems. And maybe if it's too easy, it might be a sign that you might need to go to a different company and challenge yourself. So it's an odd one. I get the idea that you're trying to find happiness through software development, but software development at the end of the day is just work, right? It's just work. So it's up to you to figure out, like, am I happy doing this type of work or this other type of work? And if you gave me a choice between my last job and my current job, I'll definitely choose what I'm doing now, right? I like my old job. Literally, I would just wake up every day and just like look at this SOP that was like, read this chart, check the trends, check mark, read this chart, check the trends, check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark. And I was just sitting there all day, just following this little order sheet that required me to make sure I do all of these things. I just felt like a human robot. But when I come into work every day, I do have this semi-anxiety of asking myself, oh crap, what am I going to be doing? Like, how do I solve this? I don't know what I'm doing. And that's actually kind of fun. So Yeah. What made you switch from mechanical engineering? So at my job after I graduated from college, I got into the semiconductor industry and I was in manufacturing, and I was doing that for about 3 years. Unfortunately, when you work at a company for that long and you're not really learning anything, you just get used to working as a employee there. Like, you know their systems, but it's so unrelated to anything outside of their little niche. So after I told myself, hey, I don't really enjoy doing this after 3 years, I try to look for other jobs. I try to apply to companies like Boeing or whatever because I had a mechanical engineering degree. But they never responded back. And I think it's because I had so many irrelevant skills. And that's the one thing I realized is you can't just take your first job coming out of school. You have to kind of choose something that's kind of similar in the niche. And that's kind of why I discovered coding boot camps. And I was thinking about going to one in Austin, but I also had this really weird desire to move to New York City. So it was on my bucket list. I discovered Flatiron School back in 2015, decided to just take the leap, pay the 12 grand, worked there for 3 months, was hoping that I would go back to California, but ended up just staying here after getting a job. And 5 years later, 6 years later, 5-6 years later, I'm still here. So yeah, great question. Do you have any tips for junior devs that are looking for a job, and what are red flags for a bad company? I kind of answered this in the last stream, but I will answer it for you. I think one thing that could be a red flag for a company is if you're the only software developer at the company, and especially if you're a junior developer, that's going to be very, very scary. If the website goes down or if the application goes down, guess who they're going to call, right? They're going to call the junior developer because that's the only developer. Ideally, you probably want to be part of a team that has a little bit more seniors, that has a little bit more experience. That way, you don't have to feel so burdened if something breaks, right? So ideally, you want to be in a situation where you could be with experienced developers. Another red flag could be, this could be a red flag or this can't be a red flag. It's up to you. It's like, oh, we want people that can, I don't know what the right wording is, but basically it's the idea that we want you to work extra hours. We're like a scrappy group that intend to respond late to like late messages and whatever. And with startups, that kind of is generally the case, but if that is just the norm, that could be a problem too. So I'll just be on the lookout for those kind of things. But if it's your first job and you've never had a job yet, I would still take it if they gave me that offer, because literally the hardest part about getting into tech as a software developer is getting that first job. Once you have that first job, like, go straight to your LinkedIn, go straight to AngelList, go everywhere, and just update your resume, say that you're a software developer at company X, and then learn as much as you can at the current startup, but then always be ready to go somewhere else if it just becomes kind of crazy. But yeah, hopefully that answered that question. What salary do you need to live to be comfortable in New York City? I assume is the question. Oh yeah. What salary do you need to live comfortably in New York City as a dev? I mean, without having roommates. Well, having roommates is a choice, but I think I could live by myself too with my current salary, but let's just say that right now 1-bedroom apartments in Midtown in New York City is probably about like 3,500 to 3,700. So you could probably do the math there of what salary you need. It's pretty rough. Hello, someone at Amazon told me I won't be able to get in to a big company as a coding bootcamp grad. I'm surprised to learn that you just proved him wrong. What do you think boosted your chances? Well, I don't know if I'm the right example, because in some regards, I got into Amazon after working at a company for about 5 years. So coming out of a boot camp and getting into Amazon or Google and stuff is pretty hard right away. But if you're able to get a little bit of experience beforehand, then I think it's very possible to get into these bigger companies. But it is pretty hard because they will test you on data structures and algorithms, as well as expecting you to know how to code in maybe different types of frameworks potentially. So when you're coming out of a boot camp, it's so condensed that you're trying to learn how to build as fast as possible. But these FANG companies might be interviewing you on, like I said, the data structure and algorithms. And depending on how you prioritize your stuff, it may be a little bit difficult to get in. So if you are coming from an area where you maybe get a little bit of experience after coding bootcamp, I would say that's probably going to help a lot, because when you're working at that first or second company at a startup, you're just getting used to just building and knowing how to use your tools in a more efficient manner. Data structures and algorithms, I think it's less about how do you code it, it's more about how do you think about it, right? But if you don't know how to actually write code in general, the data structures and algorithms shouldn't even be like a priority for you. If you can't even use the tools of coding, then it's going to be really difficult to get the data structures and algorithms out of the way, because it's already hard as is what I'm saying. So try to get that experience first, get used to just all the tools that you use in your everyday situation as a developer, and then apply. But I know some people that have applied right out of a college coding bootcamp and have succeeded, but it's pretty rare from what I've heard. What up, KG? Good to see you. Which Lofi set is this one? It's the Lofi hip hop radio. It's a Lofi girl one. I just have it in the background. 안녕하세요. Yo, dancer. What up? What up? What up? Have you ever not been able to implement a feature or weren't able to fix a bug? Is that normal for a developer? How do you handle those situations? Yes, all the time, actually. You just ask for help. Like, spend the time to try figuring it out, and then you reach out to another software developer. And rather than just saying, I don't know what I'm doing, can you help me? I literally go, this is what I've done so far. This is what I thought was going to happen if I do this, but it's not working. Is there something that I'm not seeing that you could help me out with? Or can I talk to you and bounce off a few ideas, because I can't seem to get this bug through for some reason? So a lot of times I try to give context to my situation or why I can't solve the problem. And then that way, it's not like this one person is just constantly like, oh my gosh, he's asking me for help again. Like, he didn't even put in any effort, whatever. I want to show that I at least put in a little bit of effort of trying to solve the problem. So I always try to explain what I did, how I try to solve it, and I don't know what to do next. And let's see if we can work it out and do it together. If you come off as a kind of like a pleading way or whatever, then even if they don't show it to your face, they might think that, oh, wow, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. But if you're able to kind of at least provide some context, I think it just leaves more room for a conversation rather than just purely one person helping the other. Yeah. Sup. Yeah, everything is good. Everything is bad. Yeah, everything's bad. No, everything is good. Not bad at all, honestly. It's been a good weekend. I've really enjoyed my time yesterday on Sunday. Just took a really long break. Didn't focus. I was going to edit one of my videos and just put myself through the grind and hurdle, but ended up just chilling, relaxing. I was talking to Coding Face for like an hour about random stuff, and it was really chill. Like, I'm really glad that I'm able to like relax and rest, because lately I think I've just been pretty stressed with not just work, but trying to pump content out, and it is tiring. So like these live streams are a lot more chill and relaxed, and I'm glad that I'm able to do it with y'all, because the editing or trying to come up with ideas or making a video like today and like not getting a great response from it is always kind of like defeating, and that's kind of a life of a YouTuber. But having these live streams are pretty good, and it just kind of brings me at peace. So yeah, thank you for asking. No problem, no problem. And if you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord for any of y'all. Yeah. 한국말 좀 해주세요. No, I'm good. My Korean's actually not very good, so I will refrain and save you from that horror. And usually they get the answer by yours. Exactly. That actually sometimes happens 50 to 60% of the time. I end up explaining what I did, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, it's because I'm missing this. They're like, oh, thanks for helping me. It's like I didn't really do too much, but it's just having a sounding board to talk with is so important. And that's why I think if you are a new developer, working by yourself and being the only developer is a red flag, because it's gonna feel so sad, or it's gonna feel very lonely having all of that responsibility and no one to ask help. Excuse me, no one to ask for help with. So it is really important to be in a team if it's possible. Being a software developer is actually a lot more collaborative than people think it is. So yeah. Any tips and resources you wish you had when you first starting on? If this is someone with. I think one of the tips that I would say is be careful of information overload. I don't think a lot of people do this as much these days on YouTube, but I really despise those top 5 coding languages, because it's really confusing as a new developer that sees top 5 coding languages and says, holy crap, do I need to do all 5 of these to become a software developer? And it's like, no. You just choose 1 or maybe 2 at most and just get good at it, and that's it. But don't feel that you have to don't get distracted by so many different suggestions and whatever. Like if you're gonna take a tutorial or you take a course, stick with that course and finish it out. If you're gonna take like Coding Phase and do his stuff and stick with it, like don't deviate from whatever you're doing, because I think we're so used to just going from one to the other to the other to the other and trying to get those SparkNotes versions of coding. But it really is true, like you got to put some time into this, and don't give up on just because you didn't understand it for like a few hours, right? I know some people, they only have 2 or 3 hours a day to study, and so they think that within those 2 to 3 hours I need to accomplish something. But I would even argue, like if you spend 2 to 3 hours trying to debug something and all it did was make your web page work all it did was making your web page work after it was just a broken something, that's actually a lot more beneficial, because you actually went through some type of struggle to figure out why you made that mistake. It's not always so featured focus, but if anything, you should just think about the process to get there. You heard of like the 76ers, the process, right? Like it's gonna take time. Like take some time to invest into debugging, solving things, and if you do that, then everything else will just come more naturally, for sure. Late night. What up, brother? How are you doing? For front end, I feel like I'm not good at working with CSS. If that's just the case, should I focus more on backend, or is there a front end role that focus on rendering? But don't put a huge emphasis on CSS, because I enjoy how things are working behind the scenes in the front end to render parts. You have to know CSS. That is what a front end engineer does, right? Like you can't just render stuff in ULs and LIs and Times New Roman font and expect someone else to do the CSS. Like, you are a software developer, and as a software developer, you need to be able to do the CSS, and you need to also do the rendering parts, especially if you say you're a front-end developer. I've never seen a front-end developer that wasn't good, or at least had some basic understanding of CSS. And it's kind of harsh to say this, but it's kind of that package deal that comes with it. It's like, oh, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript front end. But if you do back end, you can't just be like, well, I don't really want to worry about caching, so I don't want to learn Redis. I just want to fetch API and then save it into the database. But like, I don't ever want to think about performance optimizations or whatever. It's like, there are elements to coding where you have to kind of go in depth a little bit more. So I would highly recommend you to think about getting better at CSS, and maybe just kind of, I wish there was a good CSS course, but I know there are some CSS YouTube channels out there that only focus on like building scalable CSS and whatnot. Especially as a front-end developer, if you don't know CSS, it looks a little funny. And you don't have, if you are trying to be more full stack, then maybe you could get away with it. But yeah, CSS is pretty important. Documentation is greater than courses. Yeah, it definitely is. But documentation also has its kind of, it lacks style in some regards. Like, what if you're trying to build a larger scale application? How do you deal with that, right? Documentation, sometimes it depends on the library as well, but it doesn't always go in depth of like, okay, what is the best way to organize your folder structure? What is the best way to optimize your Webpack in certain instances? Or like even React, like, should I use context? Should I use Redux? Should I use some other state management library? I think that's when blogs are good to use, because everybody has their own way and style of writing code. And I always love looking at other people's code, just because I'm like, oh, I didn't think about writing my code that way. It's a really interesting way, because that's why code is so cool. It's like, there's no one size fits all. Everyone has their own styles, and everyone always has their own way of managing their state and whatever. And it's so cool to see how people tackle different things with the same library. Oh, for the first, yeah, definitely. That's true too. Yeah, documentation is a great way to start. Are you partaking in any freelancing gigs outside? No, not really. It's still a little too tiring, especially because I do TechRally stuff, and I guess this is kind of my freelancing or side hustle. And a lot of times I use that time to just figure out ways to help other developers that want to get their first job. And that is already a huge challenge of its own. I do some one-on-one coaching. I'm trying to build out now courses a little bit, and not courses like, oh, I want to just make courses for the sake of courses. I want to make courses where it's more project focused and less focused on, oh, this is what state is, or this is what React is, because everyone already has courses like that, and courses like that already exist, and they already do a very good job about it. But what I want to do is I want to build stuff that can be more applicable, or like it makes sense of what it is to be like a software developer. So I think one of the next courses I'm going to build, and I want to make it free for this one, is I want to show on YouTube like how rock paper scissors works in just purely in JavaScript. And then in my course, which is going to be free, I'm going to build out like the HTML, the CSS or whatever, and apply that JavaScript to the HTML and CSS and show you like, this is how you can connect the dots between the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Because sometimes I think people like learn a coding language, but they don't know how it actually applies to web development. So it's going to be really cool. I'm thinking about doing that, where it's a very simple project, but it's very easy to connect the dots. So I'm already thinking in my head, it's going to be called like the Connecting the Dots series or whatever. And that way people are able to just learn like, oh, so this is what it means to be a software developer, or this is what it means to get into web development, or, oh, this is why I need CSS and HTML with JavaScript. And why I can't just build very like simple static pages and whatnot. That's a lot of questions, everyone. Thank you so much. I actually was only gonna do this for maybe at max like 30 minutes, but probably gonna do it for the hour. And then actually, Coding After 30 is in the house, and he's going to be on a live stream at 11 p.m., which I really want to watch. So I highly recommend you to. Actually, it's not on your channel, right? It's on someone else's, but he's going to be talking about. Oh my gosh, what are you going to be talking about? I forgot. It's about should I quit my job to learn how to code? I think that was it, and I think that would be an interesting topic. So definitely skedaddle to his channel if possible after mine, because I'm probably gonna be watching that and just listening in. So shameless plug to you, Coding After 30. Even though you have way more subscribers than me now, the competition. We used to be neck and neck at 1,000 and then 1,500 and 2,000, and then we were both at like 27, 2,800, and then all of a sudden this guy just boom 30 something hundred, and now he's just way ahead of me now. So but no, it's a good competition, making me work harder. Tips for front-end engineer roles. What projects will portray my skills as a front-end engineer? Tips for front-end engineer. I think taking something like my course could be a pretty interesting one. I think it's not such a shameless plug, but really, if you don't want to take the course, I also have a free Git. It's on my GitHub as well, if you just want to look at the code base. But I think being able to just solve a business problem, and if you're kind of not too strong on the API side, then leverage one of these free APIs that do exist, and then just show what you can build with it on the front end. So I know there's like the Star Wars API, and maybe you could build like this nice catalog of Star Wars characters, and you could say, I'm just a huge fan of Star Wars. Or Rapid API has a lot of free APIs. And actually, that's what I used on my course, is like I just built out this odds sports odds application. And the reason why I built it was because it is one of those things where I just personally needed something that can help me keep track of all of my odds because I actually really like sports betting. So sorry, I'm like trying to get to the application right now, but let me see if I could pull it up really quick just to show. Share, stop screen share, and then share screen. So yeah, I built this application for my course. And what it is basically I get to see the sports odds of two different teams as well as the draw. And this is just pulling from a free API that exists. And what's cool about this is that now I could see different types of sports odds depending on the sports book and whatnot. And this has really helped me just make it so much easier to figure out like, okay, like what sports book will be giving me the best odds, right? Because like FanDuel gives me plus 310, but Unibet will give me plus 320. And so now I know like maybe I'll want to actually put my money into DraftKings because I'll have better odds this way. And what's cool about this application is that I purposely left it unfinished. So if I go like NFL, there's no sports yet. And I actually just provide you the assets and all of that stuff. And I want you to finish out the project. So ideally, this is kind of a cool thing where it solves my own business needs of like figuring out better odds, and you can expand on that to your liking. But if you don't like sports applications or anything like that, then you could definitely try something that is more catered to what you want to do. And I highly recommend that. Hopefully that answered your question. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to put back the lo-fi music, if y'all don't mind. I'm going to share my screen really quick for a hot second. And then go back to this. All right, let's keep answering your questions. What made you to be a web developer? There seems to be so many pathways. I'm not sure how to figure out which one is for me. I didn't really know. I'm gonna be super honest. when I signed up to become a web developer, or when I signed up for the coding bootcamp, I just was looking at it purely from a time perspective. And the coding bootcamp was 3 months, right? And if I actually enjoyed coding, then wow, this is going to be a great decision. I'll get a job and great. But if I ended up hating web development, or I ended up hating coding, then I could say that I've only spent 3 months on it. Now I have more time to figure out what else I want to do. So I was just looking at purely from a time perspective in relation to a coding bootcamp. But I know not everyone is in that situation, where some people might be more in the self-taught route, so it could take 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. But I'm just kind of sharing my perspective of why I made the decision that I did. But even before I did the coding bootcamp, I was taking a Android development course, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But for some reason, working 12 hours at a company versus spending 1 hour or an hour and a half coding, I was so much happier just doing that 1 and a half hours of coding. And I was kind of just doing the math. Like, if I'm going to be spending like 33 to 40% of my day working, and then the other 33% sleeping, and literally I have this 33%, 30 whatever percent to do whatever the heck I wanted to do, and I only had time to code, then why am I spending so much time at work? It's just not worth it. Mathematically made no sense. So I decided, like, hey, I'm going to quit my job. Let's see what happens. And then if I fail, then at least I tried. And if I don't, then now I'm here, right? So yeah, I got really lucky. I did put in a lot of work, not gonna lie, but yeah, it was all worth it. Yeah, but yeah, I made a lot of sacrifices when I was doing the not the coding bootcamp route. I said no to a lot of weddings. I said no to like events or hangouts or birthdays. Like, that 3 months was just all pure studying every day, all night. And then even after I graduated, I think it took me about 2 months again to finally land that first job. So definitely wasn't easy. Maybe I was just putting in so much work, I didn't want to fail. And yeah, there was a lot of pressure on me as well. Thank you. Thank you for checking out my course, and I really appreciate the nice shout out. Yeah, man, it's all about debugging. Seriously, like, that's all code is about. Like, I made so many mistakes, and it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's how you solve those mistakes. It's how you just read the errors and figure it out. Like, I love tutorials. I love course creators that are out there, but sometimes, it can't always be perfect. And people will, and I've done this myself in the beginning when I first made YouTube content with tutorials. I would go back, erase my code, and hit record again just so I don't show my mistakes. And it's not because I'm afraid of showing my mistakes. It was just more like help. I thought I was helping people that were watching my content by not making mistakes and being more efficient. But I realized I just realized that that's not what coding is all about. It's all about building, making mistakes, refactoring, fixing things, and whatnot. So, yeah. Do you have any recommendations on what websites developers should use to apply for jobs? Because I heard applying through LinkedIn is very saturated. There's LinkedIn. I still think LinkedIn is still worth looking into because that's where a lot of the recruiters live and whatnot. There's hire.com, which is a little bit harder to get into, I do admit, but if you do get in, it's very clutch. There's also AngelList. There's also another thing, I forgot what it was called, but someone on my community shared it. Let me see if I can find it really quick. If you're not signed up to my newsletter, I highly recommend it because I think that is where I generally try to post at least one job per week that I think is kind of cool. But I think this is it. This also has opportunities to look for tech, and specifically tech and diversity. So you can take a look at that. But LinkedIn I would say, is still probably the most optimal. There's also there's the generic ones like Glassdoor, Simply Hired, all of those other websites. But if you actually follow Coding After 30, he has a really interesting take. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, it's this guy. If you watch his most recent video, I think he talks about networking and getting in through the back door. And what that means is if you're able to connect with people through Twitter or build relationships with other software developers through meetups, you're going to be able to build that connection. And if they give you that, hey, like we're looking to hire junior developers, would you be interested in this position? Then that really skips you in front of the whole line, where you don't have to put your resume down. You don't have to do anything. You could just be like, yes, of course. And then you go straight into the interview process. So there is this strategy where it's like, yeah, the resume and applying is great, but it's very hard to get into a job that way. And hopefully they'll respond to you. But the best way to get in is through the back door of networking, talking with other developers and whatnot, and building those connections. So I like definitely hyping this guy up a lot, but hopefully he delivers. But no, I'm serious. He's really good. But he does make a really good point about just the importance of networking and not just blindly applying, because a lot of times resumes do get rejected, I admit. Gotta run. All right, man. I'll see you later, and definitely I'll check out that live interview because I think that's gonna be interesting. I'll see you later, brother. So my newsletter is actually really it's all in the description actually, but so definitely check out the description of this video, because I don't want to whatever. This is my newsletter, and then the course itself is on my description, so definitely check that out. And it's 20% off now. If you use Rally 20 or just click on the link, it should be fine. But I would recommend you to have a little bit of React experience before you do it, because I don't really go over that kind of stuff. I just kind of go straight into building and just showing you how I do it. So if you're new to React, maybe take a pause, but at the same time, it is 20% off, so it's up to you to decide. Yeah. Wow, I'm missing out on a lot of questions. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do more live streams. I don't know how it really affects my YouTube channel in terms of subscribers or view count or monetization, but at the same time, I don't know. I think I need a little bit of break from pure content creation, because it is very tiring. So yeah, I'll try to do that more. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I think it's a simple project, but it's one of those things where it's not maybe something you like highlight as one of your like big projects, but it's going to be something that can really connect the dots of like how to apply front end, HTML, CSS to like JavaScript. So. Yeah, respect to Coding Phase. He is a great developer, and he builds a lot of cool courses. And I think we have like our own separate little niche here and there, but at the same time, we're ultimately just trying to solve the same goal. And anybody that has that same mentality that I do, I will always be supporting people like that, because it really is important for the community to have people that with experience helping others, right? And there are a lot of smart developers out there that just write code, and that's okay. But if you're able to find people that know how to code and share their knowledge, I think that's super important. Should front-end developers focus more on building projects versus algorithm data structures, and is coding from scratch the best way to learn? Yes. I didn't totally not answer that question, did I? I believe that front-end developers or developers in general should focus on building first and then worry about the data structures and algorithms later. I think I was talking about this in my last like 20 minutes ago, was that if you don't know how to use the tools to code, then data structure and algorithms shouldn't really even be like part of your like learning process, because it's so important to at least know how to use like a map function or an array or like a filter function or any of these functions or prototype functions. But if you don't know how to use any of it, then why are you even learning data structures and algorithms? Like, learn by doing first and building and getting familiar with the tools. And then when you get to data structures and algorithms, you don't have to worry about like, oh, how do I do what I'm trying to do here? Like, data structure and algorithms is all about thinking about how to solve the problem, but you could technically solve data structure and algorithms with any language. It's language agnostic. So, but if you don't even know how to use your language of choice properly, then it's going to be very hard to do the DS and algos. So definitely focus on the language of your choice first, whether it's Python, Ruby, JavaScript, C#, whatever. Get good at that, and then do the DS and algos. And then that should be a lot easier. Hey, I'm applying for an MS because I'm interested in research and I want to do freelance web development, try to make my money to pay for it. Any tips to get my foot to the door? Do you already have web development experience? That'll be my question. And if you do, then you could always look for jobs on Fiverr or Upwork if you don't have a portfolio. If you have a portfolio, then that's a different story. And then you could kind of reach out to companies that way and see what they can do. But if you don't have a portfolio, it's going to be a lot tougher for you because you don't really have anything to showcase your skills. So ideally, you would already have some kind of portfolio to share, and then you could get freelance gigs. And then once you get some freelance gigs, you could get recommendations from that company to the other, and then you're just building a reputation that way. But if you have no reputation, then I think something like Fiverr or Upwork could be a solution. It's probably not the best paying because they say it's the race to the bottom, but if you don't have anything, it's going to be a little tough. What's up, TR? Oh, that's a short term. It's a short for TechRally. Let's go. Heard you talking about people undervalue the power of their first job and not worrying about a portfolio. I'm in my front-end job 8 to 9 months and looking to get a new job around the new year. I've been doing all vanilla JS and gonna study React for a couple months straight. What's your opinion on a portfolio? That is a really great question. And it's so funny because I was actually working with someone that was in a same exact position as you. And if I am going to stop sharing, and I'll share one of my testimonials because this person is awesome. So this guy, Kevin Wang, he was in the same exact position as you were. And we were talking one-on-one. And he had a lot of HTML, CSS experience, but on his free time, he was doing a lot of React, JavaScript, but he didn't really have like this portfolio showcasing that React skill. And I said to him, hey, look, like, I know that you don't feel confident using this framework, even though you do learn it on the side. And maybe that lack of confidence is coming from the fact that you don't have it on like a portfolio project related to it. But I told him, like, if you're already getting emails or messages from recruiters regarding positions, I think you should just go for it and just make sure you are really good in your React skills. You don't necessarily need to have this React portfolio project or whatever. Like, will it help? Of course it will. But if I was in your shoes, if you're already getting the messages, then focus your time into becoming a better quote unquote React developer if that's what that's what you want to get into, or get better at JavaScript. So what he did was he just kind of punted his like time where he was going to dedicate to build like a portfolio project or whatever, and just focused on just getting better at React development, whether that's through tutorials or building these like really small like side projects here and there. And then with those skills, he was able to interview, and he actually was able to land the job maybe like a month and a half after discussion. And what's so cool about this is that he already had a first job, and he was working at that first job for about a few years actually. But I know for a fact that his HTML and CSS skills are really good, and he just needed an opportunity to get that React position, and he had multiple offers, which was awesome. And Kevin is actually someone I'm going to be interviewing, and I'll be sharing it with my channel because he has such a cool story. It's crazy the amount of like hustle that people do to get that first job, but it's also even crazier to see how fast he was able to get the second one once he started applying. So hopefully that answers your question, Patricio. Good luck with that. And that's going to be $60 because that's my one-on-one service. No, I'm kidding. Hopefully that answered your question. And yeah, let's go back to putting on some lo-fi music because that's kind of how we do it here. All right. Oh yeah, I think I already answered this. Wow, sick. That's amazing. Yeah, no, I mean, hopefully that helped and answered your question, because it's a very common question that people ask, and it's like, oh, I don't know this technology, so am I really going to be like eligible, or like, well, am I qualified to actually apply for this job if I don't have anything on my portfolio? But man, you already have the experience. Leverage that experience, because the portfolio and everything like that is more for newer developers that don't have their first job, and that's their way of showcasing like, hey, I know how to code. But if you're already at a company that trusts you and knows that you know how to code, the second company is gonna be like, okay, like this person has work experience, like we don't have to actually question his actual eligibility of, is he a software developer, even though that's kind of still messed up. But now you've already broken through. Just get better at those technical skills, especially if you already know what you want to work on. If it was Vue, maybe get better at Vue. If it's React, get better at React. Svelte, Angular. You know my drift, right? So it's actually just it's just pasted on there. It's not actually a real guitar. I noticed that Cracking the Coding interview doesn't have solutions for JavaScript. Should I still read it? Not gonna lie, I think I read like 4 pages of Cracking the Code, and then I closed it, and I basically just did everything on my computer instead, because I have a really hard time learning just by reading. I need to be actually like solving the problem with my fingers and like figuring it out. So Cracking the Code is now just right there. I don't know if you see it. Oh yeah, right there. It's just holding my towel so you guys can see my clothes or whatever. But yeah, now it just serves as either my little like paperweight, or it's just leaning against the wall. But some people really enjoy reading code through Cracking the Code and whatnot, and learning that way. It's definitely not for me, but for some people it might be. So I don't want to say don't do it, because everyone has different like learning strategies and whatnot. But yeah, it wasn't that effective for me personally. What is my experience with open source contributions? Very minimal to none. I used to do a little bit a couple years ago, but I want to get paid for contribution. And these days my priority is, it's not necessarily so money focused, but I want to get value out of it. And sometimes open source, it's like, it's great and all, but I don't know. I don't really feel that connected to open source contribution. Maybe it's not my project. It's not my I don't see a long-term goal with it or whatever. But if it helps you to get a job, then maybe it's something you want to do. But yeah, personally for me, I don't really care for it too much. What made you become a front-end developer over a back-end developer? I just like the aesthetics. I like the look and feel of things, and I like the immediate feedback where you can make code changes and then you refresh it and then you get to see the changes right away. And I don't know, I just felt way more comfortable. And I think what helped also was that I did almost like a month and a half of CSS only. And after I got used to it and understood how it actually worked, it was so cool to be able to move things at your will. It was kind of scary. I felt like I was this developer god or something in CSS, and I was like, no, I don't want to hear. I want to move it here. You ever see was it Minority Report or something where he was just using his hands to just move images from one places to the other? I kind of felt like I was doing that as a front end developer, and just being able to manipulate things and move things around and style things. It felt so powerful, and I wanted to just get so much better at it. Well, in the back end, you don't get that aesthetic confirmation as much. But as I've grown in Amazon, I've learned more about like AWS and DynamoDB and all of that stuff. And that's actually been really helpful for me to learn. And I really appreciate the fact that I was given more opportunities to do more backend stuff that's more relevant. So yeah, I would say I'm still a front-end developer, but I'm really happy with where I am, where I get to kind of spread my wings a little bit further than whatever my niche is. And yeah. I don't think he's here, but that 4-hour stream was too much, so I definitely can't have him on. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. Oh shit, I missed it. Mario, what's up, man? Welcome to have you on the YouTube stream, sir. What's your thought on building projects by doing a code along? Will I learn from code along by tweaking the HTML? You can, but I mean, that's kind of the reason why I built the course that I did and the manner I built it is because I even say at the end of my course, all you did was do a code along. You didn't build this, I built this. Now, if you really want to feel like you've learned something, you should be able to expand upon my project and include the NFL team odds. If you can't do that, then there must be something that's missing in your knowledge gap that you need to address or something, or rewatch it again or redo it again. Because basically a code along is not necessarily good because all you're doing is giving yourself some false confidence that you're good at coding along to another person's work. But when you're a software developer, you're not going to code along someone else's work. You're going to have to build it yourself. So I think code alongs are great for learning, but at the end of the day, you got to like be able to do it on your own. So the code along is something you should start off with, but maybe figure out how to expand on it outside of just like changing a few words here and there. You want to add functionality. Functionality is the way to go. Hopefully that helped. Looking back at your career, at what point do you think you should have jumped into Fang at like 2 or 3 experience? This is a great question. I probably could have definitely jumped a little bit earlier, but I think I had a lot of self-doubt. And also, I was very comfortable at my last job, and I didn't want to stress myself out and join a company like Fang, even though they pay more and it might have been a better experience for me as a developer. But what the heck is this guy? All right, I'm gonna block this guy. Sorry about that, everyone. But sorry. Okay, looking back at your career, at what point do you think you should have jumped into Fang at like 2 or 3 years experience? That's a really good question, and it is something that I also thought about, but I don't have any regrets because even with the 5 years that I was working at the startup, I felt like I was still learning a lot, honing my craft, getting better at what I was already good at, but getting even better at it. And eventually it came to a certain point where I was pretty decent at what I did, right? But I didn't really feel even comfortable applying to Fang when I started looking for different jobs. And actually, Fang companies reached out to me, and I finally responded and said, yes, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. And one thing led to another. I got a call with the HR person. That went well. The technical phone screen went well. And then I went to the final round, and then the final round went well. And it was just so crazy. Like, who would have thought, right? And this was after I got rejected by random startups here and there. And I think I got rejected at least 6 or 7 times before I got accepted to Fang. And funny enough, like all of those other companies that rejected me, they were significantly smaller. So being able to get some type of validation, where maybe I was saving the best for last or whatever, who knows? But I'm just so glad that my first ever Fang experience was a positive one. But it definitely wasn't one of those situations where um, Fang was the only one I applied to. I definitely got rejected. I learned from it, and then kind of just iterate. That's what developers do, right? What are some of your least favorite trends in front end dev right now? Um, I might trigger some people, but I think, what is it? Tailwind CSS is a little overrated. It's unnecessarily complicated in my opinion. If you already know how to do CSS, it's just kind of like, why do I need to add all of these crazy helper class names to make my background blue, right? Or something like that. I think helper classes are great. I use them a lot for like adding margin or padding and whatnot. But outside of that, I don't want to make everything into like flex and then flex something and then whatever. And it's like, maybe I'm missing something because to be honest, I haven't really looked into it as much. But even just looking at it from just face value, I was like, trying to solve a problem that doesn't really exist. So maybe I might be missing something, and you know more about these front end trends that I don't know. So that's one thing. I mean, style components is not a recent trend, but I still am not a huge fan of it because it kind of blurs the line of, is it a React component or is it a style component or is it both? So if it's both, like, where should that file live? Should it live within the same folder file structure as the component itself? I just don't like mixing in my CSS and JSX in like all one file. And I really like having some separation of concerns. But style component seems to really conflict with that belief, that core belief that I have. So that's probably another one. The course is about 2 hours. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I want to do. So I'm just trying to think of more different ideas here and there, but I don't want to like churn out a bunch of courses so I like force people to buy it. Like, I want to put some thought and effort into it, but I want to also mix in some free stuff here and there. So that's why I'm going to do the rock paper scissors one with JavaScript and see if people resonate with that one, because that might be a little bit more beginner friendly and whatnot. And I obviously I want to help people of all levels, so that's kind of my goal. Yeah, of course you can. It's you don't have to be familiar with it. It's just getting value from an API and then rendering it out. But sports betting is actually not that complicated, especially the way that I structured it. If you, let me see if I can just pull it up. Yeah, it's actually not that complicated. If you, let's see, let me just pull out the application really quick. 1 second. So all this is saying is that, for example, this minus 120 here is if you bet $120, you'll win $100 because it's minus. If you bet $100 on this, then you win $325. If you bet $100 on this, you win 275. But you don't always have to bet $100. It's just showing you what it is in relative to like tens or hundreds. So here, if you bet $667, you win $100 if Chelsea wins. But if you bet $100 on the draw, then it's $700. If you bet $100 on this team, then it's $2,000. So obviously, you have to bet a lot more for a lot less gain. But if you bet this one $100, you'll get a lot more value. So that's all it is. It's just numbers, minuses and pluses. That's all it is. So hopefully that explained what how odds work. In retrospect, probably should have chose something that's a little bit more applicable, but for me, this was really useful. Yeah. So we are nearing close to 11:30. So I think I'm gonna give it maybe like 10 more minutes, and then probably kind of wind it down because I do have work tomorrow. The boys gotta rest, chill out, and relax. But thank you everyone for answering all these questions. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Tailwind is used in some of my work projects, and we're getting. Why are you getting rid of it? I mean, if you've already used it, then I guess you kind of like it'll be hard to go back out of it. But I am curious what that decision making process was like. I don't care for Materialize or Tailwind. I'll stick with yeah. Bootstrap is fine. I'm learning React now with class components. People are saying that React now moves towards functional components using hooks. Hooks use the using FP paradigm. I'm feeling overwhelmed by it. Is there any tip? If you're already starting on class-based components, I think that's fine, and just keep going with it. But I would really consider moving over into the functional programming and using hooks if you can, because I think that's definitely where the industry is moving towards. If you start a create React app, it's going to be based on hooks and functional programming. So it's not a huge change from one to the other. And maybe I'm only coming from the experience side, but it could look a little bit different, or it could actually go look a lot more different going from class to hooks. But I think there's nothing wrong with learning classes if you can to help build your projects. But if you can, I would move towards FP. And there's a lot of free resources out there that have um, components using hooks. So maybe you might want to consider that. Any advice you wish you knew at 20, tech related or not? Should invest in more in Bitcoin. That's probably one of my advice to myself that I should have done. And then I shouldn't have just jumped into a job that said the word engineer in it. If anything, I wish I kind of did a job that was more closely related to what I wanted to do when I studied my mechanical engineering. I kind of wanted to work with like planes and all of that stuff when I grew up because that's kind of what I had a lot of interest in. But I just thought having work experience was gonna help me, regardless of what industry it was in, and that was definitely far from the case. So that's probably one of the things that I would advise myself is like try to look for a job that is more related to your major and what you want to do. And yeah, um, I'm not responsible for these like landing pages, so I think it depends on what parts of the app and whatnot. So it's different. There's a lot of teams out there. Some people prefer using Spring. Some people you like using Vue. Some people like using Angular. It's all dependent on the team. How well do you have to be comfortable? Do you have to be comfortable with JavaScript? Oh, yeah, I think you said it twice. Okay. How well do you have to be comfortable with JavaScript to learn React? And how long does it take to get good at it? I don't think it's really time based. It's more about your own comfortability. So it's really hard to say, right? Like, what if you're studying, I don't know, like 8 hours a day? Then maybe you could get a good grasp of it within a month or a few weeks. If you're doing it 2 hours a day, then multiply that by a number of weeks. So it just depends on if you have a good idea and a solid grasp of how internal state works within JavaScript. And then you could apply that over into React. So I would kind of look at it from that perspective of like, do you know your prototype functions very well? Do you know how to like manipulate data really well? Do you know how to get data and filter data in JavaScript? And if you do, then I think that's a good time for you to start considering other frameworks. Like frameworks and doing stuff in JavaScript is there's nothing different about it in terms of the output. It's just frameworks gives you a little bit of a nicer way to package it up so you don't have to recreate the wheel. So frameworks always give you frameworks are frameworks, right? It's just the framework to help you build applications. And that's it. Yeah. All right, guys. I think this is it for questions. I am a little beat. In Kanja, I know you asked more, but I think I'm gonna have to take a break because these are coming in like rapid fire. So maybe we could save it for the next stream or whatnot. But I am definitely fading, um, and I hopefully you all understand that. But it was so cool to have everyone on the stream and 20 people on a Monday. That's crazy. Usually I would get like 20 people on a Friday or Saturday at best. And that's usually like the peak. I remember I used to have Monday, Tuesday streams and literally like no one showed up to it. And so it's just kind of awesome to see that I have such a great community here, and I really appreciate of like everyone here. Honestly, it's crazy. It really is crazy. And I'm trying to see if I have one of my older videos here where it's like, yeah, let me share this really quick. Let me share this. Like, I don't know if you guys can see it, but this 1218, the road to 1,000 subscribers here, this had 81 views. Like, that's kinda crazy if you think about it, and now I have 20 people coming in and watching it, 12 likes, like, I don't know what the heck I was doing, like, basically there were people talking on it, which was pretty cool, but the fact that it has only 81 views, that means that I did not have a lot of traction whenever I went live, and I'm glad that I could keep the same vibes and whatnot, but it's just cool to see growth. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to emphasize here for anyone that's getting into software development, that's getting into coding. This is a grind, just like YouTube for me is a grind. And I getting to 3,000, getting to 1,000, getting to 2,000 was never an easy path, but it's something that I've just committed to do. Every day I'm getting a little bit better at it. Every day I'm meeting more people, talking to y'all, my subscribers, my friends about coding, hopefully answering your questions and providing you value. Because, yeah, I may not be the YouTube channel with 70,000 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers, but the subscribers that I do have, I'm very thankful for, and I know that the growth will come. And if it doesn't, that's okay too, honestly. And you guys have just been so awesome, and I know coding is not easy, so definitely appreciate the process and appreciate the grind. And definitely, I could see so much potential for every one of you that are like so genuinely curious about this. And I would say keep working, keep grinding, and just there is no perfect recipe. Like I try to answer a bunch of questions as much as I can, but at the end of the day, you gotta just stick with it and be consistent. There's no magic bullet. There's no golden like recipe that's gonna say, "Oh, let me sprinkle something on you, and you're gonna be a software developer," or like, "Let me sprinkle something on you, you're gonna be a YouTuber with 10,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, or whatever. It just takes work. So just wanted to give a big shout out to every one of y'all that are going through this journey, because it's rough. It is rough. And just so if there's any way that I could provide you value with my coding videos or non-coding videos or courses or anything like that, that's always my intention with everything. So always want to help out with any way I can. And yeah, really glad that y'all came by. Appreciate y'all. And yeah, good night. Good night. Good night. Thank you. I'll definitely get that rest. I'm getting, as you can tell, I'm definitely fading down, but trying to keep some positive spirit up. Good night. Good night. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Really appreciate all of these. Really appreciate it. But without further ado, I'll talk to you all later.